Howdy everyone, Shatteroo here, and I am your coach of the Sarasota Scissors. Today I have for you a team and battle analysis for the Woods, Season 5, Week 8. We're up against the Tuscaloosa Turtwigs, coached by Vandosaurus, and taking a look at his team, he's definitely got a multitude of ways that he can choose to approach this. His team has a lot of bulk on it, so if he wanted to, he could go for a sort of semi-stall. I don't want to say stall because it's not like, Pharaoh Peck's style of just, let me throw up all the hazards in the game and toxic stall you while spamming recovery moves and watching as you can't do anything. But he does have a lot of tanky Pokemon, things like Rhydon, things like Caparaja, Turtonator, Rillaboom, that can tank a hit, do a lot in return, and just keep themselves alive with things like grassy terrain. He also has access to a multitude of hazards between Pincurchin, Rhydon, and Cofagrigus, which gets Toxic Spikes for whatever ungodly reason. And because of that, he could very easily just decide to set up hazards on me and watch me struggle as I, only have 2 defoggers, but he has a multitude of hazard removal. He has Hitmonlee, he has Turtonator, he even has Espeon with Magic Bounce. So as a result, it feels like it's going to be really hard to get hazards of my own up on his side of the field, but he could definitely control them a lot better than me. He also, like I mentioned, has Rillaboom, which we are allowing to have grassy terrain because hidden abilities are legal for most Pokemon in our league. And, yeah, good thing I faced off against that Thwacky last week. Shout out to Jer. I might have made a mistake of bringing Earthquake on a few things if I didn't, and now I know better. I have to prepare for it, and I cannot underestimate the Rillaboom. Aside from that, he has a good amount of setup between Primarina, which gets Calm Mind in this game, Turtonator with Shell Smash, even Rhydon with Curse, or hell, even Hitmonlee with things like Unburden, and Espeon with Calm Mind, and the list goes on. There's a lot of different ways that any member of his team can decide to just come in and set up on me after whittling me down. So between the hazards, and between having access to 2 different kinds of terrain, we got to make sure we build for exactly the right kind of team that we think he's going to bring. Or this could end poorly. So let's hop over to the team preview, and I decided I'd rather do things more like this. I'd rather just grab the shot from PokePaste and have all of the team here so we can discuss each individual and y'all can see how all of them kind of fit together instead of me just going through one by one. It's less tedious that way, and I think with this y'all can get a better understanding of what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to try this out. Let me know if y'all like it. So first things first, we have Toxtricity coming back for a 2nd week in a row, holding the Expert Belt. That's mostly to encourage it to one-hit KO Rillaboom and Primarina, which it was a roll. It's still a roll, but it was a really, really bad roll before I did this. And I decided I didn't want to run Life Orb. I made that mistake last week, and given how good Toxtricity is against him, I would rather not have this thing just die by being whittled down with Life Orb. So on the 2 really, really key threats that I'm bringing it for, I'm going to try and secure the KO, and on everything else, I'm okay with sacrificing a little bit of damage because Life Orb doesn't guarantee a 2-hit KO on really anything else. If he brings Max, Spadef, Turtonator, it's still a 3-hit KO regardless, and I feel like I should only be running Life Orb if it pushes me over in the damage calcs to like a 2-hit KO or a 2-hit KO into a 1-hit KO, so we're going with Expert Belt. We're running another basic spread, Sludge Wave, Volt Switch, Overdrive Boom Burst. Just again, this Pokemon gets abysmal coverage, so just doing the best we can with the toolkit that we have, and if my calcs are correct, all of these moves should still do heaps regardless. So pretty basic idea there, just bringing Toxtricity as a general special, don't want to say wall breaker, but special presence that can take out some of his top tier key threats. Next up, we have Rabies the Weezing with Black Sludge. I know, it's crazy, we're finally bringing Weezing, but he's running pretty basic EV spread as well. Decent in defense with Bold Nature, the rest in Spadef, just to maybe live 1 or 2 hits a little bit better. We also are running Toxic Spikes. I know I mentioned that he has good hazard control, but with this, it will at least force him to come in and remove it. If he has like Turtonator or something like that, he will have to come in and remove it. And if he is a rapid spin set, there's a good chance that he's not like running Shell Smash or something like that. That could be a threat. That could just set up on Weezing and use it as setup fodder. But just in case he is wanting to set up on me, I decided to run Clear Smog. Hopefully that will be enough to dissuade him from going for things like Shell Smash and maybe even Calm Mind on Primarina. We're also running Venoshock to synergize with those Toxic Spikes, and Flamethrower, mostly for Caparaja. I need to be able to touch that and not have it be just a free swap in, because I am not running Will-O-Wisp, and that's the only thing I've got that can really touch it with Weezing, and there you go. Next up, we have Incineroar, coming back for yet another week. I know y'all are probably tired of seeing him at this point, but he's basically become the new Pangoro. I love this Pokemon. He does really well whenever I bring him, so here he is. He's mostly here for answering Caparaja and for answering Rillaboom, and we're running heavy-duty boots. I was debating Assault Vest for things like Espeon, Vaporeon, or not Vaporeon, sorry, Jolteon, wrong evolution, but I've decided to bring heavy-duty boots instead, just in case he wants to throw rocks up, because as you can see, I'm not running Defog. I figure he already has an easy enough time removing my own hazards. If I'm running Defog, it's really not going to be helpful, because like I want to keep Toxic Spikes on his side of the field as best I can. I think that's how we win, by whittling his team down with those Toxic Spikes. So given that Incineroar is going to be swapping in and out a lot, I figured let's put heavy-duty boots on him. If he does bring rocks or he does bring spikes, at least I won't be taking damage with them from Incineroar. I decided I'm running Knockoff, Fire Punch, Parting Shot, and Taunt. Pretty basic spread. I decided on Flare Blitz, or Fire Punch over Flare Blitz, because I want this thing to live a little bit longer. I want this thing to be able to get more hits in over the course of the game, and again, it's still a 2-hit KO, I believe, on most everything, or an OHKO on the things that really matter, so there's no point in bringing Flare Blitz if it's just going to result in me taking damage to myself and not swaying the calcs too much. Parting Shot, pretty basic idea with that. Keep my momentum up, Parting Shot out on a few things, like maybe Primarina to cripple them slightly, and Taunt mostly to stop things from setting up on me or from getting hazards up if he brings like Pincurchin. Basic idea with Taunt, just want to stop him from doing basically what I'm trying to do to him. Next up we have Mew running a spread that's meant to outspeed. I believe if we look back at his team, I built Mew to outspeed Rillaboom, because that's the fastest thing he has that doesn't just outright outspeed everything I have. So I built Mew to outspeed that Rillaboom, and otherwise just dumped everything else into special attack and English, to buff its HP. And other than that, we're just running a basic substitute called Mind Spread with Earth Power and Psychic. If he does bring something like Espeon, he would probably run Shadow Ball on it just to try and touch me. And in that case, I probably wouldn't be able to stay in for obvious reasons. I feel like running Shadow Ball, though, it's not worth it. It only hits Espeon, really, because Cofagrigus still takes huge damage from Psychic. If it can't really do anything about my sub, if I get enough Calm Minds up, it won't be able to do anything about my sub. But, yeah, I figure Earth Power is better for coverage, considering how a good amount of his team is weak to ground, and Psychic covers mostly everything else, aside from Alolan Persian. So the two things that I wouldn't stay in on would be Espeon and Alolan Persian, and I would have to figure out how to whittle those down with the rest of my team. And for that, I decided Pangoro might actually be pretty good for that. I put Assault Vest on to maybe handle some of his lower tiers, things like Jolteon, that sort of thing. That's why I figured, Assault Vest. It's going to add to that bulk. I'm also running Adamant Nature, max HP, max attack, with Drain Punch, Gunk Shot, Knockoff, and Bullet Punch. Pretty basic idea here. Since I'm running Assault Vest, I obviously can't run Parting Shot, and I figure Bullet Punch will be good for cleaning, because priority doesn't hurt to have. And finally, for my last slot, I figure, well, he has a lot of his team that is either weak to grass or can't really deal with a bulky grass type. I debated Shiinotic for that, but I figure there's more that he can do to Shiinotic than he can to, like, Silvally, because he has a decent amount of things that get Poison Jab, and Shiinotic is also not as fast and doesn't get as much coverage, so I figure, screw it, I'm bringing Silvally Grass this week. I know I've been bringing Silvally Fairy a lot, but in this case, this would be really good for Primarina. It is decent for Rillaboom because Rillaboom can't really touch it. So we're running a pretty basic spread: max special attack, max speed, timid nature, or hasty nature, I suppose, because we are running multi-attack, but we're also running Draco Meteor, Flamethrower, and Parting Shot. So the idea with this team, again, pretty basic: just whittle him down, get out my Toxic Spikes with Weezing if I can, and just try and, I don't want to say stall him out, but let the HP damage stack up. So with that, I think we are pretty prepared going into this week for pretty much anything that he decides to bring. And without further ado, I will turn it over to the battle. So I'll see y'all in just a sec. Alrighty, here we are. So looking at his team that he has decided to bring, it looks as though he's not going for like a nice electric terrain sweep with like Jolteon or something like that, or a heavy hazards build this week. He's not really bringing Pincurchin for spikes. He's not bringing there could be Toxic Spikes on Cofagrigus, but we are prepared for that with Toxtricity. So I think the really big thing we got to watch out for is rocks, and if they do manage to come up, we just got to be aware of them and not be swapping out too much. Other than that, it looks as though he just wanted to bring really tanky stuff that might be able to set up on me, but for the most part is probably just meant to eat hits and hit hard in return. Maybe Choice Banded Rillaboom would basically be like a budget Tapu Bulu, but anyway, let's get right into this and see how I managed to do this. So, looking at this, I figured, Silvally, he can only really touch it with Turtonator, and I wouldn't mind Parting Shotting Turtonator, so I do lead Silvally. He leads Primarina. I'm not sure who he expected me to lead, but I just threw out a multi-attack and figured it was safe. Then I went for Parting Shot on the Turtonator and swapped out into Incineroar because I figured Incineroar could eat the hits best. He goes for Fire Blast. I was expecting Flamethrower like from a bulkier set, but he missed, so that's good for me. He goes out into Rhydon. I'm able to knock off that Rhydon's Eviolite with a crit too. That's really nice. That means this Pokemon is not going to be around for much longer. I go out into Mew thinking if he's bulky, I won't take too much from an Earthquake, but Earthquake is a 2-hit KO. Dang, that's a lot of damage. I was hoping to be able to set up on this thing. But I go for Earth Power. It's a crit again. I don't think it mattered, but still, that's unfortunate if it did. So I'm able to take out that Rhydon. That's pretty big. I don't have rocks on my side of the field now. I'm able to get a Calm Mind up on the Primarina, but according to my calcs, the only way he would do that much damage to me is if he's Choice Specs. That's really good information, though, because even though Mew's going down, I was able to get a little bit more damage on him and learn that, well, he's locked in a Moonblast, so he can't just Psychic me, so I'm going out into Toxtricity. It covers everything now that Rhydon's dead. He goes out into Turtonator, pretty much like I expected, so I Volt Switch out into Incineroar again. That's good for me because Knockoff is basically free, and off goes the Assault Vest. I wasn't expecting Assault Vest. I was expecting like just a bulky Spadef set that maybe was running like Willow to cover some of my physical attackers, but oh well, Assault Vest is fine too. So I go back out into Toxtricity. Dragon Pulse does a good amount of damage to me still, so I guess he's just like a Assault Vested max HP, max special attack spread. So I'm able to take out the Turtonator, which is huge because everything else dies from here. He goes out into Rillaboom though, and Rillaboom naturally outspeeds Toxtricity, so I decided I'm just going to go out into Weezing. He shouldn't be able to touch me at all. And I was correct, he did go for high horsepower. And as he swapped out into Copperajah, I got my first layer of Toxic Spikes up, which is good. I guess he expected me to swap here, or was hoping that I couldn't touch him. Having that T-Spikes up is good because if he has it mitigates the grassy terrain on the Mons that are left, especially Cofagrigus, which could still be obnoxious if I don't play around it correctly. Weezing, though, is able to take out this Copperajah, which is big. If he went for Heavy Slam that first turn when he went for EQ, I probably would have just dropped a second layer of T-Spikes and revenge killed him with something, but Weezing got the KO. We take those. Next up, he goes out into Rillaboom again. My guess is just to get that grassy terrain back up and click Choiced Woodhammer, because I'm almost certain at this point that he's Choice Banded. Like I said, budget Tapu Bulu. So he gets his grassy terrain up, Weezing goes down, but I am going back into Silvally because Flamethrower is a one-hit KO, or dang close to a one-hit KO on Rillaboom, and pretty safe all around. If he goes into Primarina, he doesn't outspeed me. I can just multi-attack him and he's dead. He goes into Cofagrigus though, so I figure, hey, I'll Parting Shot out into whatever. I guess Toxtricity is pretty safe here. He goes for Toxic, so nice read on that. Obviously, Toxtricity is my win condition here, so I can't exactly let it go down. But I go out into Pangoro because I figure it's the most expendable. He goes for Trick Room. Wow, that was not what I was expecting. I did not expect him to be running Trick Room on his team. So he goes for Body Press, which, good on him. I did not look up whether or not Cofagrigus gets Body Press, and I didn't expect him to be, doing that much damage to Pangoro. So I guess I'm just going to get a Bullet Punch off, do what damage I can, because I read the swap wrong. I went for Gunk Shot, thinking he'd swap out into, Primarina, because I thought it was pretty safe on his part, but looking back on it now, I would have outsped him in Trick Room, so it wouldn't have mattered if I went for Knockoff. It would have just been smarter, so oh well. Toxtricity is able to pick up this KO anyway. And down goes the Cofagrigus with one turn of Trick Room up, so obviously now Primarina outspeeds me. I need to let something go down so I can deal with this, with the Trick Room. And I decided Incineroar is expendable. I don't really care if he kills it, but he goes for Ice Beam, and knowing that he's Choice Specs, that's really good for me. I can knock him off, get that really, really nice damage off, and as he goes for Ice Beam, it does very little damage, and I am able to secure that KO with Incineroar. Neato. So at this point, Silvally just walls the hell out of it, Rillaboom, and I don't even really need Toxtricity anymore because it doesn't outspeed him. So I'm just going to let Incineroar go down, no need for anything to take excessive damage, and Silvally should just be able to come in and clean up with Flamethrower. So, GG Vando, that was a really good match, really, really down to the wire. I think both of us played really, really well. I think that, compared to last week especially, I wasn't making crazy dumb reads. I wasn't making, game-throwing plays where I swapped the wrong Pokemon in because I didn't think it through. So maybe I'm starting to act slightly less smooth-brained, which is, I suppose, always a good thing. And we definitely take those. I am still, I think, in lineup for playoffs, which hasn't happened for a hot minute. I believe I've only made playoffs before one season, and I only did that because a lot of teams ended up forfeiting that season. So it's nice to be able to work my way back up to that. It's nice to see that I'm finally, starting to improve in this game, and I'm excited to see where this all goes. Hopefully next week we can keep this whole thing going and not completely throw away everything we've worked for. And to everyone else in the woods, good luck into week 9, and for everyone watching, thank you so much for doing so. I am Shatteroo, and I will catch y'all next time. Cheers, folks.